Lauren Oak.
Hello, Natalie Diaz.
Lauren, we got a heavy podcast today. Interestingly, I didn't anticipate it, but it was an interesting conversation. Okay, so here's the scoop. We're going to meet Sadie. Sadie is actually a friend, personal friend of Emily, my assistant.
Oh, okay.
So Em knew of her. And so Sadie has two sets of twins and she's a twin herself.
Ooh.
So she also has a singleton. But the rough part is that Sadie lost her twin in high school.
Oh my goodness. I'm getting goosebumps.
So whenever I do a podcast, I always tread lightly. What can I talk about? And I always say to people, what can I talk about? And everybody always says, I'm an open book. Talk about whatever you want. But then, of course, you find the sweet spot and they're like, oh, I wish I didn't say that. And then we edit it. God bless Nash, our editor, who is exceptional. But this conversation, first of all, I had it from Florida. So I did a podcast on vacation, basically. But I couldn't wait to speak to her because I always love speaking to twin moms who have twins. Who are twins, because that's a fascinating perspective. And then I always want to, I'll love to pick their brains to say, okay, are you redoing something that your parents did? Are you doing something differently than they did? But then when I found out that she lost her sister, then I was like, do you feel like your sister's playing a role in your own raising of your twins? Do you feel her here? Do you miss her? And I asked those kinds of questions and she was very happy to answer them for me.
Okay, good.
It's heavy.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't I never like to talk about sad stuff because I know that if people are going to listen to our podcast, they're usually doing this in their free time. And I always want people to feel like, we're doing great and everything is fantastic. And, it's going to be hopeful. It is hopeful. She's literally raising two sets of twinnies. And the other kicker is that she lives to us in the middle of nowhere. And so I believe her school was a 40-minute drive.
Oh my goodness.
Could you so that also, I wanted to dig in to that and be it's not that I can't relate to people that live in a super rural area, but where we are, we're so urban. We're the urbans of urban.
Yeah. If I have to drive more than 5 minutes, it's far.
If I have to walk more than 3 blocks, I'm aggravated to buy milk.
Yeah. I'm that's so convenient. Everything is right at our fingertips where we are. And I get mad if I have to go an extra mile. I have to drive 6 miles instead of 5.
But see, you get that, but you don't have the opportunity to look at wide open spaces.
True.
Except we do have the ocean.
Yeah, I can go to the beach in 10 minutes. So
that's it. I could also close my eyes and pretend I'm someplace else. That's about as much space as I get. I have the sky. I could just look up. That's infinite. That's all that I could do. And I can't even look up everywhere in New York City because there's usually a building in my skyline. So I have to just wear blinders and only look at a tiny spot of sky. But she was honestly, Lauren, she was just fascinating. She really was. It was such a fascinating conversation. And at the end of it, I felt so privileged to be able to talk to her. And she shared so much with us. And I'm pretty sure that podcast went extra long. I didn't look. I should have actually just looked, but it was really, really something else. So I got it. We're just cutting this short because seriously, I know that our families don't have enough time, but you got to meet Sadie. And for realsies, this is one you got to bookmark because you're going to love it.
Okay.
All right, here comes Sadie. Hi, Sadie. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Sadie, I don't even know where to begin. When I was reading the notes, I literally said to myself, this can't be right. So you have two sets of twins and a singleton, and you're a twin yourself. So it probably wasn't a surprise that you had twinnies. Oh my goodness. So how old are your two sets of twinnies?
So my oldest set is 5 and they just started kindergarten this year and they're loving it and I'm loving it for them. And my second set is 2. They'll actually be 3 here in March. And
Oh my gosh. And how old's your singleton?
She will be 1 next Thursday. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So how exactly did you decide to have 5 kids in a matter of a few years?
Well, so the first time we got pregnant, I actually had a miscarriage, um, and then the following, I think it was like the following summer, I got pregnant again, and then we found out it was twins, and that was the whole whirlwind in itself. And actually, we kept them a surprise from our family, so we didn't tell anyone we were having twins.
Wow.
And then, yeah, and then um, right before they turned 3, I had my second set. So it was like a month before they turned 3. Then I had my second set. And I'd always wanted 4 kids. My husband and I always wanted 4 kids. And it kind of just happened so fast. Like, people don't normally get 4 kids in 2 tries.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were like, well, do we want to, do we not? And let's just say we weren't not trying. And then we had our singleton. And so when I got pregnant with her, it was a surprise, but also we went to the doctor and we're like, ooh, is it twins again? So it was kind of nerve-wracking before we found out. But
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Did your doctor just assume that it was going to be another set of twins?
He kind of asked. Well, when I went in for the second set, we went to our first ultrasound, and he's like, oh, twins again? Or like, haha, like, we're gonna see, just kind of joking. And then I actually saw it before he did. He pulls up the ultrasound, and I was like, that's 2. There's 2 in there. He's like, you're getting kind of good at telling this, aren't you? So,
And so for
yeah.
for your third pregnancy, did the same thing happen? Did you like automatically assume that it was going to be twins?
I was wondering. I didn't know for sure, because obviously I was like the smallest with her. But I didn't know for sure. But in the back of my mind, I was like, what if there is another set of twins?
Well,
And we would roll with the punches.
Twiniversity families that have 3 sets that literally
I've
were
heard of
into your
families like
exact
that.
shoot. Yes. So
Yeah.
I would watch the dice on the next somewhat
Yeah, we might be
pregnancy.
done after this.
You never know. I always
We
vote for
might be
more. The
done.
more
We'll
the
see.
merrier.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. So now, when you first found out about your first set of twins? So something that I do want to talk about, and it's horrible, but I think it's kind of an important thing, is that you being a twin and you lost your twin 12 years ago.
Yep.
And how was that? Like, I know that there's a website called Twinless Twins about people that, are in your situation, no matter because there's people who they might have lost a twin at birth and just always through their life feel like they were missing something, but you had your whole life with your sissy. Was it your sister? I don't know why I'm feeling
Yep.
that it was your sister. Okay.
Yes.
So you had your whole life with your sister, and then it was a very like abrupt, tragic passing.
Mhm.
How did you get through that? Because that's not a regular grieving process, right? And were you and your sister fraternal or identical?
Fraternal.
So were you like, did your parents try to find you extra support? Did the social worker at school or the school counselor, like, was there additional steps? Not that you might have known what traditional steps would be, but what was the process like after your sister passed to kind of help you through the closest relationship that pretty much any 2 humans could have?
Yeah, it was really hard. When I found out she died in a car accident, and when I found out, so my mom came and picked me up. I was still in high school, and she came and picked my sister and I up, and she told me that at the time she didn't know that it had been tragic, and I think in my heart I kind of knew. But yeah, it was hard. We shared a room. Our whole lives we shared a room. I think I slept on the couch for a couple months afterwards because I just couldn't bring myself to go in our bedroom, and it was hard. Just such an amazing outpour of love and support from the community. I grew up in a small town. Well, I grew up on a farm and ranch, but went to high school in a small town. And yeah, and our faith was a big part of that. And we just really leaned on each other. And I have 4 sisters, so there was 5 girls total. And we just all got super close after that. And we're still so close to this day. So yeah, we just really leaned on each other and just close friends, and had a really close friend group in high school. And we're still in good touch today. And yeah, so just lots of encouragement from friends and family.
Did you go to the site or get support from Twinless Twins?
I did. I can't remember when I did. I think it might have been a few years later.
And what kind of support did they specifically provide to you, right? Because what I could find out on my end is very different than what people are actually going to receive, right? So on this side of the table, we use them as a big resource, but I've never actually known anybody that, or spoke to somebody after the fact, as I toss my pen erratically around. But I've never spoken to somebody after the fact. How did they provide the support for you? And did you find that it was very twin appropriate, or was it a little generic?
I thought it was pretty appropriate. I don't think I specifically reached out to anyone in particular on there, but I just found it comforting to read people's stories, and just kind of knowing that like I wasn't alone. Yeah. It just helped me to kind of found comfort in seeing that there was other people like me out there.
And so coming from a big family, right? It's no surprise that you have a big family now. That definitely makes things a lot easier. And when your sister passed, how did your mom deal with that? Like, did she have a harder time with it?
She did. She struggled. So before she got pregnant with us, she said she had always prayed. She just wanted twins. She always prayed for twins. And so she felt in her heart that God gave her both of us, and then that she felt that the Lord told her that her time was up, and that was very hard to accept. But we all have our times, our days are numbered. And she struggled because it's like you're going through with twins. She said that you're going through the grieving process, but you still have another one that's the same age that still has to go through all these things. And like, I was a senior in high school, prom and graduation and all those things that seniors do. She said it was hard to grieve and at the same time, like, be excited and be there and be happy for me. She still did a great job from my view. But you could just tell it was really hard for her.
So sitting on the table as a twin mom, right? It's so interesting because like, that's the first thing that I'm going to think of, right? Like, truthfully, when you told me that your sister passed, I think more about your mom, right? As a twin mom. And so you have this very interesting perspective of kind of being on both sides. Do you think that there's anything your mom could have done to make the whole grieving process easier for you?
I don't think so, honestly. I think actually just her and my dad actually just spoke kind of about the grieving process at church a couple Sundays ago. And I told my husband, I was like, I've actually never heard their side of the story. Wow. And because we just didn't talk about it, because she said that, you don't like to see your parents hurting. And so we really didn't talk a whole lot about it. We still talked about her and stuff. It hurt, but I don't think she could have done anything different than what she did. She did her best, and she, of course. Yeah. And she had actually just lost her sister a few months prior to losing my sister. So it was just, she'd gone through so many deaths in her family in that year, actually. And so she was still in the grieving process from that. And then, so I think it was really hard. So I don't think she could have done anything different than what she knew how to do.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because that's all that we could do. And that's literally all we could do is our best each day. But when you experience things, and then as an adult, when you experience knowing that there was a behind the curtain situation happening, does it make you feel like that you wish you knew more of what your mother was going through then? Do you think that by her sharing more with you about how she felt, and this, by the way, this doesn't only go with grief. This really goes with anything from anxiety to depression or whatever. Do you think that it might have benefited you knowing that your parents were in the same boat as you instead of just having to keep your boat afloat, right? Because as a parent, that's going to be our instinct. Our instinct is always going to be to make a better situation for our child. But do you think that if you knew, because you were older, right? You weren't 5 years old, you were very much, pretty much an adult at 17. Do you think that it could have benefited you with the process that you experienced with your sissy to have them talk more about what they were going through?
Maybe. I'm not really sure. Because like I said, my sisters and I, we got really close, and actually we're just a really close family. We got close. I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know who's to say if it would have or not. I don't know.
Well, because the only reason why I ask is because with Twiniversity in general, right, we try to provide information that I wish I knew, right? I wish I would have done this differently. I wish that I could have. And you're in such an interesting point in your life that you get to wear both hats, right? That you get to say like, well, I was an adult. I wish the adults around me would have shared more, because we don't know what the right thing to do is, right? When you go through something like losing a child, no one knows the right thing to do. And there's probably 27,000 books written about it. However, not everything is going to resonate with you and your family.
Right.
So does that experience that you had, has that changed the way that you have dealt with grief over the past 12 years? Like, do you wear your heart on your sleeve more? Are you more likely to make sure that you tell everybody that you love them before you see them the next time? Like, has that impacted the way that you human? I don't even know a better way to put that, but has it changed you and the things that you do on a daily basis?
I would say so. It just makes me realize our days are numbered. We don't know how long we have. Tomorrow's not a guarantee. I'm always telling people, if you're my close friend or family, like, love you, see you later. Like, it's good to see you. I'm always telling people I love them. And each day is precious, and my kids are precious, and I try to remind them of that, and I want them to know that they're loved. And my parents did a great job of that. They made sure we knew that. I just kind of try to portray that to my kids too. It's changed the way I view life, I would say.
I mean, it has to, right? Did it do the same for your sisters?
I would say so, yeah. Like I said, we're still really close, and we try to. We all live within a couple hours of each other, so we try to see each other as often as we can, and FaceTime, and so yeah.
Good. So now, putting on your mom hat again, what are things that you do now, like, say, making sure that you tell your friends you love them? Do you think that you are a different type of parent than you would have been if your sister was still here?
I would say so. And I don't know what kind of parent I would have been, but I just know the twin bond is so special. And I know not all twins get along with their twin. My kids fight a lot of days, but they also love each other. So I just try to really foster that and just make them aware of the importance of that bond and how special that bond truly is, because some days they're like, oh, they said they don't like me. And I'm like, well, they don't mean that, And so, I mean, they're 5 and 2, but, but I just try to really show them how important that is. And we do talk about my sister. I say, I don't have my twin here anymore, and I just want you to know, like, your twin is someone so special to you. So Yeah.
So knowing that, are there things that you specifically did or didn't do being a twin yourself? Like, some people are like, oh, my mother always dressed us in the same outfits. Couldn't stand it. Or we were in the same class, or, we had a crush on the same boy. Like, are there things that you take from your growing up experience with your sissy that you're making sure that you do or do not do with your 20s?
Well, in terms of the same class thing, we didn't have a choice because I grew up going to country school. And then,
what is country school, by the way? I've never heard this. I don't know what it is. Remember, I am the city mouse to your country mouse, so I don't even know what that means.
So at country school, it was basically a two-room schoolhouse out in the country, 40 miles from town. It's just somewhere you get all the rural country kids that can go there. I think there was like 5 kids in my class. There was 2 teachers, a teacher's aide, and then downstairs in the basement was a lunchroom and a music room. And it was probably on, I don't know, 5 acres maybe. Just a little schoolhouse playground.
Sadie, I want to know everything about this. I literally would have dig in. So wait, you went 40 miles each way to school?
Once we went to town, yes. We were 3 miles from country school. So we went to there until almost 8th grade.
Okay.
And then we went to town. And it was like 38, 40 miles
Was
to town.
there buses?
There was a bus that came.
Okay.
We rode it. We rode it quite a bit until probably junior year, I would say. And then or sophomore, junior, when we started driving, and then we would drive more often because we were involved in sports and things like that after school programs. So, but yeah, they had a bus they would send out and pick up rural kids on the way to town. And
that's unbelievable. I love this. I'm telling you, I had 40 kids in, my first grade class, and there was 2 classes because I live in a somewhat populated city. I heard, I don't know. It's all I've ever known. So just that's what you know. So now your 20s are in the 3 mile away school at this time?
No. So that was me growing up. So now we live in a town.
Okay.
My husband and my family and I. And so I grew up in South Dakota and we're in North Dakota now. And my kids go to school like a couple blocks away. So
okay.
Yeah.
So that's more traditional of what people would be going to. Okay, I got it. So now in that school, there's only 1 class, so there is no discussion about separation.
That was for me. So now my kids, there's 3 classes, and I was like, you will separate them. They need some time apart. Yeah. So, and that's been so good for them, honestly. Just getting their own space. Mm-hmm. They are thriving so much more than if they would be together, because they're always, not that adults compare them necessarily, because my oldest are boy-girl twins. It's just everything is such a competition with them, and they're oftentimes comparing themselves, well, why did she get this and I didn't, or why did he do that and I didn't get to do that, Yeah. So we're separate them. And it's been good for them.
That's great. It's so funny because there's still many states that refuse to put twins in the same class if it's available. Mm-hmm. And parents go crazy. And they're like, no, I want the kids. And I could see it from, obviously, from the parent side of you that, it's 1 set of homework and it's 1 set of cupcakes that you make for a class and 1 set of Valentines, where you separate your 20s, it's double everything. So for my 20s, we did kindergarten twice. And so the first time that we did kindergarten, they were in the same class. And then the kindergarten teacher was like, they got to be separated. You got to separate them, because what we didn't really know is that my daughter at the time, so when she was 4.5, she had this I always say that it's like a Russian doll situation where I had her and she had him. So she thought that she had to take care of him in school, because we couldn't figure out why she was so in his business all day. Mm-hmm. But he would come out of the bathroom and she would be like, did you wipe good enough? And so the teacher was like, that's cute, but at the same time, not necessarily appropriate.
Yeah.
So yeah, they separated, and it's been lovely ever since. I feel bad that the boy got tortured for a year. Is your daughter your baby A?
She is. And she is very mother hen, and she like she has a very hard time being by herself.
Aww.
She's very social. She loves people. If her brother's not playing with her, she'll peck at him, like play with me. She'll annoy him, and it ticks him off. And my son, he's more like academics, and he's totally fine playing by himself. You could put that kid with toys by himself all day, no people, and he'd be totally fine. So they're very different, but yeah, my daughter, she likes to be the ringleader.
About us, right? I think because I have your twinnies just at 19 years old, so I see your future right now.
Yes,
and it doesn't change much.
Okay,
I have to tell you, it's still pretty much. It's still pretty much the same. It's really just working on, could you leave him alone? Leave him alone. Could you leave him alone? That's just the words that we uttered a million times over the course of 19 years. So it's interesting. So that's one of the things, right, is that you were like, they have to be in separate classes and they need some time away from each other. Are there any other things that you did or didn't do when you were growing up as twinnies that you make sure? Is there like specific words that you use? Like, do you never use the twins and always use their name? Because I've been very fortunate enough to interview some twinnies before. Never anybody in your situation though. So never somebody who's like been a twin, lost a twin, had 17 sets of twins, then a few singletons thrown in, that went to school 40 miles away. I mean, Sadie, seriously, you're the best to me. I could talk to you all day about this. But are there other things that you did, like the dressing or coordinating or using, their names? Were there things that when you saw that second heartbeat during that pregnancy that you're like, deal breaker, these are the things that we are or are not going to do?
Yeah. I don't know. We call our kids the bigs, the middles, and then the little. I don't know. My sister and I, we always it was like Sadie and the other one is what people said. And it was. And I don't know if it was just coming from like country school to town school. People didn't know us as well. And I don't know, my personality was more outgoing and she was more reserved. So I don't know, but that's what we call our kids, the bigs, the middles, and the little. And I don't know. I mean, boy, girls, it's harder to dress them alike, but my mom would dress my sister and I like just opposite colors. Like I always wore the blue and she wore the pink, but the outfits were like the same. And then, so then my boys came around, my second set, and I was like, I don't need to dress them the same, but sometimes it's kind of cute just to dress them the same. It's just fun. I don't really know if there's anything like specific, but
that's good. But honestly, you have to realize that it's a good thing if you didn't have deal breakers, because it means there wasn't anything that you hated so much growing up. So that's a real positive, right? So I'm always trying to pull stuff out of the twinnies that we get to talk to be like, hey, listen, did something bother you? And maybe there's another family that's doing the exact thing. True, maybe it doesn't bother their kiddies, but just to put it on people's radar, to be like, hey, they could view it as this, even though we're the parent of your twinnies. We may not, obviously, we don't see the same things as tiny little kids that you were once upon a time. So I always love to ask that, because I just want people to be very aware of specifically of what they're doing to make sure they want to continue doing it.
Yep.
That's my purpose behind it. But with being a twinnie, how do you specifically nurture that bond? Like, I know we touched on that a little bit when you said, you have a talk about, how important their twinnie is, but for as much as you do to keep them together and make sure that they know about that special bond, do you do things to equally make sure that they know they're two separate people?
Yes.
And how do you do that?
So my husband and I, it doesn't happen as often as it should, but sometimes we try to, like, we'll do like a mommy son date or something, or daddy daughter date, or we'll just do things with each of them separately away from everybody, just so they know that they have their special time with mom or dad too. You know, if they get home from school, sometimes we'll put a show on for some of the other kids, and then one of the other ones will pull up and say, hey, let's have some reading time together, you know, just to keep the other ones a little busy, and then still spend, if we can't get out of the house, still spend some time separately with each of them. So and we just try to remind them that God created them special, and they're each their own person, but it also, like I said, it is a special bond that they have. Not everyone gets to be a twin. So I mean, I think my youngest came around and I think they were like, Mom, where's Thea's twin?
Yes.
So
it's confusing for families that have multiple twins.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny that you even bring that up, because I think a lot of twinnies, especially, you know, when you have twins, you often gravitate towards playing with other families that have twins. Yeah. And it's interesting that some twins do not know that babies are born one at a time. And it's a discussion that people have to have. You don't think about it because you're just so like, this is our family and this is what we do, that there has to be a side conversation with, well, most people have babies one at a time.
Yes.
That's it for your two sets of twinnies. Now, just speaking about like big familyness, right? Are there things that you tell your friends that maybe are on, you know, their first singleton? Are there things that you've learned as a mom of a bigger family, right? Because traditionally people aren't having 5 anymore, although I think it's awesome. And I would just say have 9 or 10. I would be dying for a big family. And it wasn't in the cards for me, hence why Twiniversity exists. So I have thousands of babies now that I don't have to pay their college tuitions. So it all works out. But are there things that you do on a regular basis that make your life easier, because you do want to make sure that you have time for the twinnies, even if it's 2 minutes? And I know parents are probably saying like, that's ridiculous. You only get 2 minutes with each of them. Truthfully, think about how much time you have on a regular basis, which is like none, right? Nobody has free time. What's that? You don't get that for many, many years. But are there hacks that you found with, you know, making dinner for the week in one day, or, you know, making sure that baby A gets to pick a show this day and baby D at this point, which we could call them, you know, picks the show on this day? So what are some of the things that you do in your house that simplifies your life so that you can have more time with the kiddos, or even for yourself and your husband?
Yeah. Currently my house is not organized because we had to like move out and move back in because we had a water leak and it was a whole mess. But anyways, we've been in our house probably a month now, so it's not as organized as it should be. But like for school nights, I try to pick out clothes the night before, and I have those like 3 plastic 3-drawer things. I've labeled them like Monday through Saturday, and I put the clothes in there. My kids, I mean, I'm sure a lot of twins do this, but they're like, it's my time to go first. It's my turn to go first. I'm first, my first. So what we do with that to minimize that, we pick days. And it hasn't really started with my younger twins yet, but with the older twins, my daughter was the A twin. And so she was born first. And so on odd number days, she gets to go first. So like, if it's the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, whatever, she goes first. That's her day to go first. She gets in the car first. She goes in the store first, whatever. And then on even number days, my son was born second, so he gets to go first those days. So that's kind of minimized some arguments.
That's great.
Yeah.
What are you going to do now once the littles, once they get big enough to have an opinion? What are you going to do, girl? Sadie,
I don't know. I haven't thought that part. Yeah, I don't know if we'll do every 4 days and it rotates or what, but I don't know yet. We'll see. Maybe they won't have the I'm first problem.
That's
Who knows?
Nice. That's cute, Sadie. That's cute that you think that.
Yeah.
How did your parents come up with that? So you were 5 in total, or you have brothers, or you were just
5 girls. That's it.
Whew. So when you were growing up, did your parents even have a system, or was it just like roll your eyes, like give me a break, just get in the car?
I think that's kind of what it was. My dad was out working outside a lot of the time, working in the fields and stuff. It was like me and one of my other sisters. We were the ones who like would like to go out and help him.
Yeah.
So if they were not helping, then I mean, it kind of separated us a little bit, so we weren't always in each other's space. But also, you're on a farm, so you go outside and run around. So I don't know. I don't really remember having like a sister or anything like that. So,
There usually wasn't, but you never know. I mean,
Yeah.
we're trying to learn from everybody's, not only from you,
Yes.
but from your family that you're in and the family that you grew up in. Because just the more choices that people know exist, even like, because I know that there's the odds and even days for the month is so great. That's like, you don't even have to think about it. Like, that's what it is.
Right.
And I know that there's other families that do like Monday, Wednesday, Friday is baby A, and then the other day is baby B, and then the odd day is parents pick.
Yeah.
So, because everybody, I mean, we certainly should have a choice, maybe once a month.
Yes.
I feel like it should be. We know that's going to be a few years till that really happens.
Yeah.
So now, when you were deciding to have a family and you got pregnant the first time, and you said that you had a miscarriage the first time, was that a singleton?
I don't know. We didn't have an ultrasound. I think I was 10 weeks and I had an ultrasound scheduled at 12. So yeah, we weren't sure.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Sadie. That's horrible.
That's right. Thank you.
It's so common, but people don't realize it is, and it doesn't make it any easier. Like that's, I think, one of the things that even if you know that everybody on the block, you know, went through the same thing, that doesn't really make anything easier.
Right.
So I'm still very sorry about that.
Thank you.
To hear that. So when you got pregnant again and you saw that it was twinnies, did you have an easier time with that because, you know, you were more familiar with it being a twinnie?
Yeah, I think so. I would say my first pregnancy, that was my hardest because I just got every symptom under the sun a pregnant mom can get. Just swollen, and I gained so much weight and everything. And then I had to have an emergency C-section because I think they were 34 and 5 is when they were born. And then they were in the NICU for a month. And so that was really hard. But my second 2 pregnancies, it was much, much better. Yeah. So I think I just went off on a tangent.
No, you didn't go off on a tangent. Whatever. I'm always like one question ahead in my mind. So welcome to my universe. But I want to know, when you found out that you were having twinnies, did you feel that like your sister had a hand in it?
Yeah. Because actually, so my sister died in July. It was July 12th. So it was a Thursday. And my first set of twins were born on April 12th, and it was a Thursday. And so I thought that was really special. So I thought she kind of had a hand in that. So yeah, that was pretty special. And then, and my daughter, her middle name was my sister's middle name. And, she talks about her all the time. And sometimes she like says things I'm like, I've never told you that. How did you know that? Type of thing. And so I think they kind of have a bond, even though she's not here.
Yeah. I am a big believer in that. I think that there's way more in the universe. I don't even know if it's a religious end or a universal end, but there's some kind of connection that we all have. And I think we in general, whether in this life or another life, I think that there's a lot that we get from both sides. I know that I'm going off on a tangent, but I think that, and also like I was raised in a family that death was sad, but it was also that person didn't really leave. They might not be physically here, but there were pieces of them, be it traditions that they had or songs that they sang or things that they did that continuously lived on even after they passed. And it's so interesting that like, I wonder, are there things that you do that your sister did that maybe you didn't do before she passed? Like, were there words that she used or ways that she did things? Like, what are the little traditions or rituals, whatever you want to call them? Are there any that you were like, I'm going to honor her by doing this? Or maybe you do them even subconsciously and you're like, crap, I never really thought about that, but I didn't do that before.
Yeah. I don't know, like rainbows are more special now. At her funeral, my cousin, she was like 2 at the time. She said something about how she was making rainbows with Jesus now. And so now rainbows are really special. My sister's favorite color was green. So we use green hearts a lot, and we use the phrase remember, like in all caps. And my sister used to say, I got this all the time. She would just like, I got this. And so sometimes we like say that and we just kind of laugh a little bit, like between my family. And I don't know, some silly little things, like every once in a while, like if I go to the coffee shop and sometimes there'll be a green straw in there, and it's like, oh, that's like, I think it's like a little sign or something. Yeah. So
I do. I know that people probably will say that we're both crazy, but I'm cool with that. I accept my weird insanity, but I think that that's really nice. And so you continue that with your twinnies. You're doing the green hearts and the rainbows.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
That's just a way for her to be a part of their life.
We try to keep her memory alive and make sure they know who she is.
Sadie, you're unbelievable. I don't know if anybody told you that today.
Thank you.
But, it's like you're the perfect example of how everybody has a story. And when you might be at a store one day and in a full rage because your kids are just all trying to grab something, then throw it in the cart at the same time. And people may look at you and be like, oh, she has to get it under control or whatever. And I always think about that. Everybody has a story and you don't know what somebody's going through at that moment.
Absolutely.
And there is so much, like, truthfully, I want to do a separate podcast just on the 40-mile school. Like, I'm fascinated. I'll tell you my inner city secrets. Like, I'll tell you how, like, honestly, most of our travel is done by subway, right? And like, there's so many crazy things. Like, I didn't drive for a very long time because there's no need to, because I could walk to everything. We have definitely different lives. And I feel so lucky to be able to be in a position where I get to speak to people that we could be all of different walks, whether it is geographically, economically, religiously, like, it doesn't matter. But at the same time, we're all on the same level because we all share that common bond of being a twin family. And that definitely, like, to me, that's the big uniter. And it drives me insane that, like, nobody was doing this before Twiniversity, right? You had local clubs that, and you would say, like, very much in your little area. And the reason why I wanted to make sure that Twiniversity existed is because when everybody grows up in the same area, you may think that your ideas are crazy because everybody thought differently than you. But when you see the big picture, and it's not only within the United States, it's actually globally and maybe intergalactically at some point, Twiniversity will be. But it's that we have so much more in common than we do not. And I really, truthfully, and I just appreciate the generosity that you just shared with us. Because to me, that's like, you're just the best and you're doing so good. And I want you to have another set just because it's fun. And I just think it's crazy and wonderful. And just like other people say to us, better you than me, right? Double blessings, double trouble. I don't know how you're going to do it, blah, blah, blah.
There's a whole list of questions.
God. I don't know how you deal with that, girl. Did you get that a lot growing up, that you would hear people say, like, oh, she's the good twin, right? That's horrible, by the way. What was your sister's name?
Yeah, Carrie.
So that's horrible, by the way, that they were like, it's Sadie and the other one. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it got to be a little joke. We would just say, like, oh, there's the other. She just rolled with it at the time.
Honestly, it's less pressure to be the other one. And people always say, like, oh, that's horrible. But at the same time, like, I am not a twin of my sister's, but my sister was the one that they knew her name and I was the other one. And I
Yeah.
liked being the other one because nobody paid attention to me. I was like doing my
Yeah.
own thing.
Yeah.
I was good. Like it's not
Yes.
bad. And
Yeah.
from an adult point of view, like I think about, oh, like my twinnies, and they would say the same thing about like my daughter. My daughter makes you know that she's there. There
Yep.
is no choice.
Yep.
That's
Oh,
it.
yeah.
You know,
Yep.
she walked in a
That's how
room.
my daughter is.
So, and my poor boy, I say he was basically raised by neglect because we had to pay so much attention to her that
Yes.
we forgot he existed sometimes. It was
Yeah.
like a bonus, like, oh yeah, Johnny. But now that
Yeah.
they're grown up, it's funny to hear about like what they thought of their childhood. And he never felt
Yeah.
that way. So like I was so like hypersensitive about making sure that he knew he was, an individual and that he was loved just as much
Yes.
because the spotlight wasn't on him. But he doesn't give one crap about it. He's like, no, I didn't even
Yeah.
notice. And he's like, I
Yeah.
thought I was the favorite.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you are. You are. That's why I love you. Sadie, you're
Yeah.
the sweetest, and I'm so excited, and I can't thank you
you.
enough. And I look forward to your next pregnancy with the twins, and then we'll do our follow up
Yeah,
of what that is. I won't be surprised. You may be, the doctors may be. I'm like, yeah, join the club. That's that. So it's not many of you out there, but you're already doing so well. You might as well just try, just keep that up.
Yeah.
That's that. We'll figure it out. But you go back to the farm living. It's more farm hands. It's more ranch hands.
Perfect.
See, it works out great. But Sadie, thank you
does.
so much for playing with us today. And I can't believe
Yeah, thank you.
know who Twiniversity is and that we exist.
Yes.
And it's great. Oh,
Yeah. We love you guys.
Oh,
Thank
fantastic.
you.
Thank you. And for those of you that are listening out there, if you have questions for Sadie or for or if you want to talk about anything, email us at community@twiniversity.com, or you could slide right into our DMs. We're just at Twiniversity, literally every place, because that's how we roll. And we're hoping that if you have something that you want to talk about, you'll join us for our next monthly meeting. It is always the second Tuesday of the month at 1:30. We had a really, really, really good meeting this month, which went a little off tangent and way over time, but we had a great time. So I'm hoping that Sadie will join us for our next one, and we will see you there. And until next time, guys, thanks for listening, and we'll see you later, alligators.